Welcome, lovely one, to the Meant for More podcast. My name's Lisa Clifford, and I am building the world's most empowering Meant for More movement, leading millions of heart-led purpose seekers from feeling insignificant to invincible. So I truly hope you enjoy this next episode. And welcome to Gina Cole to the Meant for More podcast. Gina is a strategic organisational development consultant. She works with organisations, helps teams develop and grow to be aligned with values, vision and mission. She is a trainer of NLP, an MBIT trainer and a firewalking instructor. Ultimately, Gina is all about helping people feel their best, be their best, and have an amazing transformational experience with her. So I hope you enjoy this episode. And welcome, Gina. Thank you so much for joining our Meant for More podcast. And as always, I love to start with the question that everybody wants to know the answer to. Is Gina Cole's Meant for More movement? I think we know how this is going to go. So lovely, Gina. Can you think of a time when you've had that ache, that knowing, that stirring of when you felt or knew you were meant for more?
So it's an interesting one because it's not a specific moment in time for me. It's like almost a culmination of a few different events that were pulling together. I would say the universe was offering me different opportunities in almost like a mixing pot.
Sounds like a cocktail already.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what it is, because although that sounds rather pleasant, a cocktail, doesn't it?
Is your story not quite so pleasant?
Yeah, potentially. There are definitely pleasant aspects to it, but actually the ache and the understanding and the moments of knowing that I was meant for more weren't comfortable. And I think that's often the case, isn't it, when we're in our comfort zone? We're just doing what we already know. And for me, some of these aspects of the mixing pot, the cocktail, were uncomfortable and uneasy and a bit confronting. It probably goes back to a period of time in my life from about 2018 to about 2022. So it didn't happen in a moment. It happened over a period of time, which I think is often the case for people. But started really with life was going great in 2018. I felt like I was at the top of my game. I'd just got married in 2016. Life was going great. Tasha was going off to university, my daughter. Work was really flowing. The diary was full. And an opportunity came up to do some mentoring, through like local business opportunities come up and it's like, oh, there's some free mentoring going through the Boost thing. And I thought, oh, do you know what? I haven't focused on me for a little while. And my business, I've just been doing it. So I thought I'll take the opportunity up to take some mentoring. And I met a lovely coach called Lou Booth, who's very heart-led, hugely compassionate, and she really challenged me. I thought I was entering into this to expand my business, which was kind of the purpose. But what I got instead was a mirror of what I was doing and how I was being in the world.
Tell me more.
Yeah, and that I realised when I was doing that mentoring that I was hiding behind other people's brands. So it gave me a sense of how small I'd been playing Gina Cole in the world. In fact, I wasn't being Gina Cole in the world. I was hiding behind, as an associate, other people's brands and doing a really good job at it, but almost shrinking myself in the process. And I hadn't realised that that's what I was doing until I was faced with that kind of mentoring mirror. So that, I think, was the first ingredient to the mixing pot.
And so what did you go from and to? What did I'm meant for more, I've been playing small, I've been hiding behind brands, not deliberately. What did you then go on to do? What was the meaning that you then went into?
So I started to notice that I was lacking some authenticity in the work that I was doing. So I was hiding, and yet I was expecting my coachees and my leadership participants to be being authentic, to be being their brand, to be doing all of that. And yet I wasn't offering that for myself. I was offering lots of it for other people. And I think that's, often in this world that we work in, we're very giving to others. We're very compassionate to others. And so I suppose what it allowed me to do was then step into some next stages of learning and development for myself. And one of those things that helped me really get meaning was to do some multiple brain integration technique training, which I now coach. I'm a master coach and a trainer in that. But at the time, that really helped me to understand that I'd been living life in my head and my gut. So the sense is that when we're in true alignment, we've got the head, the heart, and the gut involved. And I'd been living life with my head and gut. So taking lots of action, doing lots of things, but not really having the heart within it, or certainly not the heart for myself. I definitely had heart for others, loads of compassion for others and wanted others to be successful, but I'd kind of almost been bypassing my own
including the brands that you're representing as well. You massively wanted them to be successful. You represent them brilliantly. You create massive change and growth and healing within your groups and participants, but all along doing it for others and not for yourself. I bet there's so many people, trainers, speakers, coaches out there that can relate to this, and was it comfortable representing other brands, or was there a part of you that you had to suppress or even abandon or even park?
I think it was comfortable in that I could do it easily and effortlessly, but the discomfort was kind of almost knowing that it wasn't mine.
Yeah.
It wasn't truly mine, and it wasn't truly me.
Yeah. And knowing you as I do, one of your top values is that being your true self, being authentic, whatever word we want to give it, but that you are genuine and that you're sincere and that you walk your talk. So I can imagine how uncomfortable the not being truly you. And I want to say words like being in your power, but it doesn't mean you're disempowered. It just means, I feel like it just meant that only part of you was activated.
Yeah.
And so you went into this multiple
brain integration techniques training. Yeah.
Wow, that rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, these things always do, don't they?
What did that lead to? So you did the training. What did it then lead you to? And what did you unleash within yourself that came as a result of it?
So what it led to was a real softening of my heart, because I'd been so disconnected from it, almost as though, because I do NLP stuff, and I know you do as well, that third position of almost like fly on the wall, looking at your own life from a detached, kind of dissociated perspective. I think it gave me an insight into that I'd been doing that for myself, and that actually when I re-engaged with my heart, which I think I'd lost from being quite young.
Yes.
So it brought me back to a younger Gina, and recognised that younger Gina was really wise and had loads of wisdom. Almost life had meant that being logical, being detached, being confident even was the way to be. And so I just learned to be that. I learned to be what other people wanted me to be in the world. And particularly, and this is no disservice to my parents at all, but I grew up in a household of engineers. And so, of course, left brain logical action taking makes sense. So when little Gina was expressing her emotion, as I would do at 4, 5, 6 years old, I was told that I was marred or I was soft or not to be like that and don't cry. So I kind of learnt to not do those things. And so the multiple brain integration, when I reconnected with the essence of who I am and my own heart and soul and the light, meant that all that emotion was welcome again. And
it's like a wholeness, isn't it?
And an integration and an alignment and just a congruence with who I am. And I don't know that I knew that in that moment. That's definitely been like it's been unfolding. But to reconnect with your own heart and to reconnect with who you are, I'd been so horrible to myself in many ways, beating myself up from the inside out, always trying to be perfect, trying to satisfy everybody, and not recognising the amount of self-compassion that I needed was being depleted over time at the cost of myself over others. So it really allowed me to just reconnect with who I am and all that wisdom of younger Gina. And I love that. I think we often go back to our younger selves, particularly at times of transition. This is, so I'm about 42 at this point, and recognizing that things in life were shifting, like almost a developmental staging in my life. So Tash was going off to university, so mum role was kind of different. There were perimenopause coming into play, lots of that kind of emotional context going on. And I did during this time as well. Of course I did. My first firewalk.
And now you are, I want to just say right now you are a firewalking instructor.
Absolutely.
But little did you know back then, I'm guessing, that you would be. It's like this, what I'm hearing is an unlocking of chambers that have led you to this expansion that I think you've even said is this year's theme.
Yes, expansion is.
Yeah. So you did your first firewalk.
I did, and it literally, I did not know. I went into that firewalk thinking, oh, it's something to do, gut-based action. I can do this. It feels like a challenge. I'll just get on and do it. I didn't know that it was gonna literally light me up from the inside out and ignite something in me. I got back from that firewalk the next day and I started reaming out ideas about my business that were different than what I was doing and starting to connect Gina Cole in all of that. So what did I want to do with my business? What was the message that I wanted to let out that was about other people's potential and how they could find themselves too? So I had loads of ideas for my business. Suddenly I got excited about it again rather than it just being something that I did. And it wasn't that I didn't enjoy it, but this felt different.
Yeah.
So that part of it was dead exciting. And actually at the time that I did it, I thought, I need to be doing this in the world. I need to be doing what I've just experienced with others in some way.
Yeah. And when you know that, don't you? I was sharing the other day about on a podcast I was on about seeing a speaker on the stage thinking that should be me, and me thinking, what have you got to say? But something awakened within me. And so as you're describing that awakening within you, you can't unknow it, can you? When you have that feeling of, I should be doing this, I should be taking it out. How long did it take from then to become a firewalking instructor and take it out? Because all these things that I'm hearing you say, that unlocking, you actually take action. You take action and then you integrate it and then you deliver it. For the firewalking side, how long did that unlocking?
I think I experienced my first firewalk, I can't remember exactly, but 17, 18. And then, of course, I did the firewalk instructor training with you last May, so 2024. So what's that? 7, 8 years?
Yeah.
7 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd experienced several firewalks along the way and got more and more from them each time I was going because I understood it better. I could integrate it better. I could feel like I went with real purpose and intention rather than a not knowing, which is also great when you go with a not knowing, of course. But I felt like it was filling me up, fueling me. So every time I did one, I just got more and more certain that I needed to have this to offer to my audience, to my clients, to my community. So that was really exciting to experience that. And I love the fizz and the buzz that it gives you and exactly what you say, the action that it then propels you into. Something changes as a result of doing that.
Yeah. I think as well, there's something about there's the knowing that happens within us. What was your knowing about you that happened within you? Not only from walking on the coals. Well, let's start with that and then we'll go into what knowing happened within you becoming an instructor.
So walking on the coals, I had no idea that I was going to set the intentions that I was going to set on that night, which was actually, and it's only as we're talking about it now that I'm reflecting, was actually about expansion. And I love that cycle, that what we knew once we're now becoming.
Yeah.
I love that. So yeah, walking on the coals for me I thought it was going to be an action. It wasn't. I didn't even notice that I walked across those coals. It was like a surreal, that wasn't my head doing that. It couldn't have been. It was an integrated body, an alignment, an empowered body that went across and then just felt connected and inspired, totally. And from this came the, I have a little Facebook community group that's just a positivity group, but ruby slippers and butterflies. And the ruby slippers are the shoes that we wear, like Dorothy did, that she goes through her own life looking on the outside for all these different things. And actually, they were always in her all along.
Yeah.
And I was finding that as I was coaching people, as I was training people, that particularly during the pandemic period, actually, that was their experience too, that they just needed to come back home because that's all she was doing. She was just trying to get back to herself. She just didn't know how to find her way. And so I felt like that ruby path were my ruby slippers to inviting me into a space where I could be truly authentic and offer people what I was asking of them.
Yeah.
You know, like that be the change thing. I can't put this stuff out into the world and not be it. That's really unauthentic. So that was what was happening.
I love that. I think, and your firewalk, am I right in saying it was with Fiona Morgan?
Yeah,
From
lovely.
Shankido. Well, shout out to Fiona there, who lit that. It's meeting the right person at the right time that makes something that must have seemed to you, but I'm projecting here and putting words into your mouth, but must have seemed to you back then as, I don't know why I've booked myself on a fire. Why did you book yourself on a firewalk? Can you remember the version of you?
I can't even remember doing it. I can't remember thinking, oh, I'll do that. I don't know the moment in time. I just know that Fiona came into my path at exactly the right moment with Shankido, and I went, I think, to her open day or something, did some bits of work with her on that day and thought, I need to be doing this. I just knew that was for me. I can't tell you how it happened, when it happened, particularly where it happened even, but I do know that it ignited something in me at a moment in my life when I really needed something bigger than just some learning at a logical level.
I love that. And you are an NLP master trainer?
Master practitioner and trainer, yeah. Don't put me up a grade yet.
You're in a vision of mine. You're sat on a throne somewhere. Yeah, so you're all about the mind, and yet the firewalk experience, how would you describe it? Because there are a lot of left brain people, a lot of accountants, solicitors, engineers, academics as well, that don't know the point of walking on fire, and I get that, but how can you articulate and describe what happens within you that bypasses the mind to help those people imagine, what would I get out of it? How does this work?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really difficult question to answer,
which is why I'm asking you it.
Yeah, it has logic, doesn't it? And that's kind of the point. I always say to people, you don't do this decision making from here. It's, if you're trying to do that, the best thing you can do is experience it. And I think that about most things in life, actually. If we overthink it, we stop ourselves, we procrastinate, we prevent ourselves from moving forward. So I suppose the sell on it is my own story, my own journey with it, and what I've experienced from the fire. It's a huge mirror back to us, isn't it? And it's like somewhere to put your intentions, somewhere to let go of things, somewhere to put in purpose. Who doesn't want that in the world? And yet it doesn't have to be a logical thing, because it isn't. So for me, if you want to be fully embodied and walk into your own identity in the biggest way possible and become the I am statement that you are in the world, then do that. And I dare you. You know, I think left-brain people need a bit of challenge, don't they?
Yes, I love that. I know that people right now, you're a firewalking instructor and you have run your own firewalks. And as a trainer, in all of that brain stuff, you bringing in this element, I find so inspiring into your collection of offerings. And also I find it so inspiring that you were open to an embodied experience that isn't separate to but integrated within the brain experience, because some NLP people like to stick to just the NLP, the brain side, and that everything can be created and reprogrammed from there. And then to do something that defies logic is almost inviting a contradiction in. Do you battle with that? Or does it have a place, that kind of contradiction?
I love contradiction. Yeah. And I think that's why the multiple brain stuff, because there's NLP and then the follow on from NLP is multiple brain. So NLP, very head and gut. Very head and gut. And the heart is added with multiple brain integration. So when that's added, and I think as a leadership trainer, as somebody that goes into the world and helps people to be the best version of themselves as a leader so that we can offer others the climate to be the best selves, that's what we do as leaders. That's our privilege. that if we can add heart into that, then, things can only be more aligned, can't they? More congruent. We can only have values-led organizations. So I think that whilst it might seem a contradiction, it also makes logical sense, doesn't it? So when we deal with leaders and say, you know what, if you want a values-led organization that you can be proud of, that people are aligned with and engaged with, and that we offer the best service to our customers or clients, of course, logically, the heart has to be in there.
Absolutely.
So we can spin it in a way, can't we, that allows people to see the purpose and intention. And in the heart brain, we've got connection with others, values, and our desires and our hopes. Who in the world doesn't have desires and hopes?
Yeah.
That?
When you led your first fire walk, how did it make a difference compared to, the empowered classroom stuff that you do? What did you see in your participants that actually couldn't be mirrored in a classroom type workshop?
I see them being connected with themselves much more, but also with each other. That sense of community, that sense of real values-led, heart-centered connection with people. Because whilst you're there and you're walking for yourself, you're also hearing everybody else's stories, aren't you? Everybody wants everybody to do well. Everybody wants everybody to succeed in terms of team, in terms of community. And there's it's a felt sense, this isn't, it's entrained across the entire group, isn't it? We're all there for each other. It's like time stands still and we're just held in this experience. And in a world where we're doing our best to help people be more presence-based rather than spinning off into future or going back into the past experiences too much, we want people here. How more present can you be than being just in that moment doing that thing? Because you can't think about anything else when you're there doing that.
You can't, and it's such a gift, isn't it? We're so unpracticed at being completely present without, last night I was watching a film and there was a boring bit and I picked up my phone. Or there was a scary bit and I picked up my phone. And it's an instinct that we become habitualized in, either numbing ourselves down or numbing ourselves out of discomfort, boredom, stillness, being completely present. And like you, I completely agree. There's something, whether people know they're going to fire walk or not, I love that people can't decide in advance that they're going to walk over the coals. In fact, we encourage them not to make that decision. That the whole purpose of it is that they learn to be in the present and make decisions from an experience based rather than a decision based, I'm going to force myself to do it. But also that they can't help but be focused because the fire demands and even commands our focus and our attention. And it's mesmerizing. I think about us stood around the fire and we're seduced, we're connected. And that's the thing about the kind of fire walks you lead, is that they're very, very connected. They're connected. We bring some of the brain in, we bring some of the heart in, we bring some of our intuition and gut in, and then we move with our whole self. And there's actually an opportunity for us that we don't question ourselves, that we're in that vortex of self-trust, isn't it? It's almost like a vortex. Time stands still. And it's a vortex of, it just feels right, I'm going to do it.
And I trust myself in that moment, and I trust other people, and I trust the fire, and I trust the circumstances and the environment that I'm in or what are being offered, and they're right for that moment in time. So I know that you know this, Lisa, but the first fire walk that I led for a corporate group of people, the weather was horrific. It was horrific. And of course, you trained my fire tenders, and they kept saying, oh, do you know what? It's, but we've had lovely weather whilst we've been doing this. And then it's like, well, be careful what you ask for. And we were with a group of 20 odd people from the National Trust, and they were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. The weather was just awful. It bucketed it down. And do you know what? I remember standing there looking at all those people absolutely wet through, with the biggest grins on their face, so much pride in their bodies and their hearts for themselves and for each other. And I remember thinking my hair was slapped to my face. I was drenched and I was joyful.
Yeah.
None of that mattered. We were given what we were given that day. And it's such a metaphor for life, isn't it? Whatever's happening, we can handle that if we come from it from the right space and place. If we've got each other, if we trust that it's all right, this is what we've got, this is what we're given, rather than trying to control it or battle it or let it be something different than what it already is. It's like, this is what it is.
Yeah, I know. I loved hearing how your fire tenders all worked in harmony, and they were working, that they made the whole experience for your group just magical, and the sense of pride, because it's like the red arrows, isn't it? When you're running a fire walk, it's with your team and with the group. You all become one, and it's let's work with what we've been given, and that is. It is such a great lesson for life that sometimes we wait for conditions to be perfect, which is a form of procrastination. It's not quite perfect enough. And of course, the goalposts of what perfect looks like keep changing. So it means that it just keeps us being safe. But the fire has a finite amount of life, doesn't it? And we're working to the pace of the fire. When the fire's ready, the fire's ready. And the weather conditions determine that as well. There's so much being woven in the evening with you that you're having to be agile with it. And I think that is what's so different to being a trainer in a classroom, where other than the room changing or timings need to shift a little bit, you're pretty much in control of everything. And people can have experience to a certain degree, but unless you bring the empowerment experiences in, like the glass wall, the board break, the arrow break, they're definitely having breakthrough experiences then, which you can share. But the firewalk holds our conscious, focused attention for the whole time we're there. And I bet you saw your participants focus last much longer than they normally would do without the fire requiring it.
Yeah.
It's such a gift, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think until you do it, because it's different experiencing it as you being the firewalker to being the instructor. So, I love the different positions that you can take with this, or even, you being the fire tender. There are just so many different roles at play that require different aspects of us. And we only know what that is when we're in it. We can be as prepared as we want. And, you and I are very prepared in the world that we'll do that. And yet there's still some aspects that require us to just be. And that's what I love about it. And that's what I've learned, through all of this, what are you meant for sort of process that's happened over the last few years, is getting really comfortable with just being who I am rather than needing to play a part for others. Because there was one more thing that happened during that time, which was that, I've done singing and acting for a long time in my life.
No.
It's one of my loves. I've sang since I was 8. I've acted since I was 15. And I think part of the discovery that I had through doing firewalking, but also through the multiple brain integration, was that I'd been playing roles of other people, and that had become a pattern for me, to a point where actually, who was I? And so when I did the mentoring with Lou, and I was held up the mirror of, what do you stand for in the world? Who are you? I didn't know. And there was one thing that happened that really shook me, and it sounds so silly now, that every role that I'd been for in life, through musical theatre, I'd pretty much got. I'd got it, I'd played all the parts, some of it really big, lovely roles in life. And I went for an audition, I can't think what year, maybe 2009, and I didn't get the part, and I was 42. And I'd gone for a part that really a 42-year-old woman probably shouldn't have gone for. But I thought, I'll give it one more go. I've played it twice before. So Maria in The Sound of Music, one of my favourite parts. And I got some feedback that I'd not got the part. And I remember this being a significant moment. And it wasn't intentional by the person that rang me and did this at all. It was just feedback. Was that actually that I was too old. And I can feel emotion now when I say that, because the parts that I'd been playing for so long in my life, that I'd stood by, that I'd been, that I thought were me. Who was I then if I couldn't be them? If I couldn't be mum because Tash was going off to university and doing her thing, then actually, whose clothes do I wear now? What costumes do I put on next? And it wasn't about the part, it was about the metaphor that goes with the transition of shifting into a new stage and age in our life. And all of this was coming together in that pot to help me see. And that was, believe me, that was really uncomfortable to find out that actually the things that I'd been doing in my youth were no longer me. It really hurt me. Unintentionally hurt me. That wasn't the intention at all of the director, but it made me really think about,
Where do I fit?
and who am I now? Yeah, where do I fit? Where do I belong now?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Sorry, Karen.
that started in the midst of all that was probably started that little percolation of, oh, actually, I need to reassess this. I actually need to wear my own clothes. I need to be Gina.
Yeah.
That's the role that I need to play now. That's my role. And how do I do that authentically and allow that person to come out and be bright and shine and all of that without feeling like I need to deplete my own story or keep myself small and hide any longer. So it is a whole mixing pot, isn't it, of different events, and that all came together as here's a moment in time where you can do something about this. I really like myself now, you know. I'm really proud to say that I like who I am. I have integrity in the world. I don't do things to upset people or whatever, you know, unintentionally. You know, if I do, then it's unintentional. I love my life. I love it, but I love it authentically. I don't love it because it looks good to other people.
Yes.
I love it because I love being in it.
I feel what keeps springing to my mind is this feeling like you are the leading role in your own life now, rather than you playing leading roles, that you are the leading role. In fact, that's what I'm going to title your episode, because all of this, all the conversation has been led to you owning who you are, but discovering who you are. And I bet there are so many people that relate to this. I mean, I certainly do. When I was employed, my identity was the role that I had in that job. And when I became a firewalking instructor, that's when I became more me than I'd ever been before, because no two firewalking instructors are the same. And actually, when I trained, I didn't know one, so God knows where I got the idea from. But no two are the same, and you have to rely on your own wisdom, your own intuition, your own experience in training. You can't help but be yourself. I think when you're around the fire, that it requires that of everybody there. Whether you're a fire tender, whether you are walking on the coals, whether you're leading, whatever your role there, you're required to show up as you are and be authentic. And so I think that was my turning point of coming home to myself and being the leading role in my life. For you, who is Gina?
Wow. And she's still in discovery and she's still in progress, without doubt. And I love that. I love that I've still got loads of stuff to learn in life. But Gina is fun.
Yeah.
She's generous.
Yeah, she is.
She wants people to do well, but wants herself to do well as well, and is really congruent in the actions that she takes. So Gina has got her head involved, she's got her heart involved, and she's got her gut involved. And when those things aren't aligned, I know.
How does it, when they're not aligned, how does it show up for you?
It would be either like an ache or you know, when you've got inner conflict going on, it's like, well, I think I should be doing this, but I'm not taking any action. Or I'm doing things, but my heart's not really in it. It's like there's something almost like we're out of congruence with our own being. So a bit like in NLP, it will be like a bit like parts, not quite the same, but you know, there's a part of me wants this and a part of me wants that. And what I would have done in the past was I would have taken other people's opinions or thought, what do other people expect of me in this, and done that. Now I go, let's go inside, let's notice what is within and what do I know truly is required here, even if sometimes that's a more difficult decision to make. So I think I listen from the inside out much better now.
That's so good, because so many people feel that their inspiration is outside them, that it lies within somebody else. And I think you and I are cut from the same cloth, aren't we? Of, it's a seed that's already within our own heart that we have to pay attention to. Almost wear the experiences to see, is that the path I want to go down? I want to ask you about self-trust, because when you're talking about being around the fire in the pouring rain, your hair stuck to your head, your fire tenders there, you've got all these participants ready to go. How important is self-trust?
I mean,
and what does it feel like?
Yeah, for me, self-trust is just that inner knowing. It's the whatever is happening, I've got this. But without even thinking that, it's not something that I would say to myself particularly. It's something that I'm being. So, as we're gathering around either inside or outside, whichever part of the activities we were in, it's just trusting that whatever's coming out of here just flows, because it's really coming out of here. And that whatever's coming out of other people is required in the room at that time. So I have an absolute belief that what shows up is what's meant to be there.
Yeah.
And for me, that's self-trust. Is just that I can be here and allow whatever's going to happen for the lessons for all of us. And sometimes that's messy, isn't it? Sometimes that's uncomfortable. Sometimes it's not what we intended it to be even. But I have a belief that it's right in that moment, that whatever is there is meant for us.
Yeah, I love that. I think that self-trust is one of the aspects that a lot of people need help with, because we've become so externally validated or stimulated or measured that we've lost practice in trusting what feels right for us. So therefore we start to over question it, which then takes us out of our flow, doesn't it? And off our path even.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know, do you think the pandemic contributed to an impact on our self-trust? Do you think the fact that we were not allowed to socialize, with people, that we were controlled, impacted people's self-trust more?
I noticed during the pandemic when I was coaching that people were very questioning about who they were. I noticed that there was a kind of almost a parallel effect going on, and that people were wondering whether they were on the right path as well, and is this for me? So I think in some ways it had offered questions, and in other ways it allowed us to come back to self, because what else was there to do in that moment apart from come back to who I am? But I think that was fearful for a lot of people. It certainly was for me, to sort of go, oh gosh, there's just me and, those very close to me in this. Perhaps for some it built self-trust, and for others it built more fear or more links to other things. I'm thinking about our younger generation. So Max, my stepson, they went to gaming and things, didn't they? And sort of tried to numb themselves out with that kind of thing. Or, maybe we had our own different escape routes for it. For me, it was enlightening to come back to self. And I think for people that maybe had support during that time and could reflect on it and observe it for what it was, maybe they got more insight into that. I don't know whether if you were just going through the process of the pandemic, I don't know whether you'd have had a different experience, possibly. It was just a journey to be had.
I noticed that my experience of it was immediately to go into purpose. I remember hearing, I just ran an event for International Women's Day, and it was a week later that we were just finding out we were going to go into lockdown for 2 weeks. And because, of course, the pandemic we were being locked in 2 weeks at a time, a month at a time. And so it just kind of sprawled out, where people felt that they couldn't make long-term plans. But for me, I remember thinking, how can I help people? My default was to go into being in service or of service. And I know that some people that were around me at the time just went into navel gazing. I know somebody in particular that I spent a bit of time with went into navel gazing. And whereas I was thinking, let's rally the troops and let's send some positivity out there, or let's use this time resourcefully. And it was interesting because that was my default when I grew up, which was when there was a challenge, a problem, a disaster, then I just stepped into a level that I didn't know I had in me. But then, and I think the pandemic, the recession that we had in 2008, I had the most successful year I'd had so far in the recession. So it's funny what our programming in default sets us up for, isn't it? But interesting, I saw so many people's worlds shrink and them question their own lives. And then we come out of the pandemic and almost think, right, and it's like coming off the hard shoulder at 70 miles an hour instead of that gradual coming and then getting back into an old groove that they were in. And I'm sure there are people right now listening thinking, I promised myself during the pandemic that things would change, that I wasn't going to go straight in doing the job that I'd always done. But actually, we came out of it, and I was so glad that the gates had opened that I just went for it. I'm sure they're thinking now, what was it I promised myself during the pandemic? And how do I get back to it? Are you coaching people at the moment that are having those kind of conversations? It's almost like we want to get the pandemic as far behind us as possible, but then we've forgotten some of the gems.
Yeah, interestingly, the other weekend I was delivering an NLP session for part of the practitioner course, and I read the story of the Great Realization. I don't know if you've read it. It's like a children's book about how we awoke we were awakened in 2020 to this life where things stopped and we could see life for what it really, really was. You know, all the cars had come off the roads. We started seeing things growing. We started nurturing each other and ourselves. It's a beautiful story. And as I read it and got to the end and I looked at the group and I asked them, you know, what's our experience of that now in 2024? And it's like, what a missed opportunity that was.
Really?
We were given this moment in time to really reassess what's important. And I think some people listened and heard and made huge changes, didn't they? You know, many of us got back onto that track that we were on before and went faster and continue to do what we did before and more. And I know that I've been guilty of doing that. It's like, I'll do all of what I did before and everything that I learned in the pandemic and pile all that online stuff on top as well. And, you know, we were given breathing space in the world, weren't we, to just take notice. And I think just trying to bring that back and remember, what did we learn? What did we learn during that time? And what have we missed? What did we miss?
What did we promise ourselves? I mean, I think I'm trying to think, what did you promise yourself during that time?
Lisa, you'll laugh because you know what I'm going to say. I promised myself balance and work-life balance and all of that. And then, you know, I'm guilty of doing this stuff where I fill the diary, I get excited about what I do. And so, you know, I have to look at myself sometimes. I never say that I'm perfect by any stretch, even though I train this stuff and help other people.
You are to me.
You know, but we're all works in progress, aren't we? And part of my challenge in life is to regain balance. It's a theme that keeps coming back for me. So expansion this year, which is the theme that I have, is about growing my business, but it's also about space and time for me, for Gina, for the inner part of me to come out as well as the work part.
You say growing your business. Gina is in such high demand. That's why she is so busy. It's because she is sought after and she's in demand. But you say growing it. And my sense for you is less about growing it, but participating in, like, doing more firewalks, doing more of the things that you've recently learned, but your value of loyalty and not letting people down means that you're still going to keep servicing people that you've been working with, aren't you? You know, you've still got the companies that love working with you. That's why you're so busy, is because you're in demand.
It's very kind of you to say.
Yeah. So how are you going to do, if you don't mind me asking, how are you going to do expansion?
So part of my expansion for my business isn't necessarily about me doing more. And I've learned this through the firewalk instructor training and also through the fire tender training that you did with us, is really starting to learn again how to trust other people to do some of my work, which when you've been the sole person in your business doing it all and loving, I mean, I really love what I do. It's dead hard to say no to stuff when you love what you do. But I want to grow a small team of consultants. I'm doing that gradually. I've got the fire tenders. I've got a couple of people that do coaching and training for me. I want to get somebody into the business who's going to be doing more of the kind of the operations stuff, the stuff that I'd call them a chaos manager. That's what they might be. Somebody that allows me to do the parts that I'm really good at and want to do, and that fill my soul up, whilst allowing the business to grow in a way that still services all those other things, because I don't want to lose the essence of what I started as. My business is 12 years old this year. And interestingly, what's happened with that is, since I've become okay with putting Gina Cole out into the world, rather than hiding a bit, my business has completely changed in terms of what I deliver. Only in the last 2 or 3 years have people said to me, I love what you're doing. Isn't it great that you've got that business? Isn't it great that you've set that up? Almost like
It's new.
never had it before. Like it's new. That's so insightful to me, but a real message that what I intended to do is happening, because people are seeing me out there now, whereas before they wouldn't have heard what I was doing because I was in other people's businesses behind other brands doing it. Now they're saying, oh, it's you. You're doing that. It's great. I see that all the time. And I'm like, I'm all right with being out there now. It feels more comfortable. It's not my comfort zone at all to be out there labeling my brand up. I still find that has a level of discomfort for it, but I understand that it's required and that it's important for my authenticity and for the brand that I am, that people see the real me.
What do you think the unease of having your brand out there is? I mean, I know you're not uneasy with it, but that little essence of unease, what do you think that is?
I think almost, and I experience this a lot in my coaches, there's almost like a fear of success. The what, like the what if. That sounds, I don't mean that to sound like big-headed. That's not what I mean. But keeping ourselves small has got purpose, hasn't it? There's an intention behind keeping yourself small, that it's safe, that, let's be honest, you don't have to do as much work, maybe there's a little laziness in this. What if people, there's a scared part that kind of go, what if people really knew who I was? Now that's much less than it was before. But life hasn't been perfect for me, and I've always played other people's stories bigger than mine. So there's still who am I?
Yeah.
Why would people want to listen to that kind of version still going on for me? It's smaller, it's shrunk, but it's still there.
I think so many people will relate to that, because I think we all know ourselves so well. We all know our experiences. We all know the little things that we've got shame over that other people might not have, might not even give it a second thought if it was their life. But it's almost like we think in order to have a billboard, a sign, that we should be perfect. But it's not anything that we expect of others.
Never.
It's, if I know you really well, I think you love the trainer who loves what they do, is brilliant at what they do, but is also really flawed and doesn't hide it. I don't mean really flawed as in, a broken person. Again, incompetent. Yeah, not bad, but just flawed in there, that they recognize, like you've said all the way through this, I'm work in progress. And that it isn't somebody that presents themselves as being, I'm the polished and finished article, because I don't know many people that are drawn to trainers who, I see these, you'll see them as well on Facebook and LinkedIn, really gorgeous, sassy women that are in their 30s saying, I run a 6-figure-a-month coaching practice and I can help you do it too. I don't feel remotely drawn to that advert at all. I don't relate. I don't see myself in that person. I'm not here I'd love to make 6 figures a month, but I want that to come as a result of me helping people as the priority, not as the driver. I'm much more drawn to somebody who's who's a bit more relaxed, shows me some of their vulnerability to start off with, and then tells me what their expertise is. And so, but for some reason, we have it in us, if people knew who we really were, would they take me serious? And the truth is, I think yes. But as Brené Brown says, we can share our vulnerability. We just don't have to post our bikini line wax on Facebook. We don't have to tweet our bikini line wax. So what's the future hold for you, Gina? What have you got coming up? What's big and courageous for you this year? And it could be, how do I create balance? But what is it for you?
Mine is about, the balance thing is definitely there, the life and the work balance. And I find it difficult because they are intertwined. Like, I am who I am wherever I am. But the balance there, the expansion of time and space, and stepping into some new experiences. I love new things. So I'm doing with Peggy Dillon. So I can't wait to go and do the Sundoor initiation there. We're going to India this year, so to explore just some of the world differently. And I've got a few bits coming up with multiple brain integration that are going to expand the business in a different way, which I'm really excited about, because that is authentic work to me. I really connect with it. And more self-discovery. Yeah. And of course, this is all about me being me so that others can then be themselves when, it's like there's a permission given, isn't there? Like you said, you're drawn to people that are that way. And so all of my work is about people just being their best selves. And there's nothing that I love more than seeing people light up and recognize that it's them that's doing it. They knew it, they had it all along. It's just that somehow we've managed to tap into it and let them re-acquaint themselves with what was already there. And like, what beautiful work in the world that is. And we get paid for it, Lisa, which is even better. But I would do it for free if I had enough in the bank account. I would.
I agree with you that when people see who they truly are, then it frees them to be themselves, as is the journey that you're on as well. What would your wisdom or tips be to anybody that has got that sense, I feel like I'm meant for more? Maybe they've come out of lockdown promising themselves something, and then just thought, actually, I just need to get going here, and then somehow forgotten about that calling or that promise. What would your wisdom be to that person?
Yeah, mine would be to prioritize time and space for yourself, to reacquaint yourself with whatever that promise was, because it was right. And trust that, and potentially to look at what the younger you would be saying about you right now, and what would the older you be advising you about this moment right now. So, when we look from all those different perspectives, what needs to now take place for all that to just begin to percolate? What's in your mixing pot? That's an opportunity for you to coming up. And then to do something about it, because it's all right knowing it. I'm feeling it, but then it's the action. It's in the action, isn't it?
Yeah, and the value of working with a coach when you're in that particular space, you might not need a coach for long, but rather than using the same thinking to try and get you into that course correction or that meaning in your life, having a coach like yourself that will just hold them as they decant that and make sense of it. Because what's that like, doing it by yourself for yourself?
I mean, it's tricky, isn't it? And I'm not sure that you actually can. So there are a number of people that I would have supporting me with my stuff. And one of my things this year is to get more support for me, because whilst you're busy doing your own business stuff, sometimes we do forget ourselves. But you're right, when you're with somebody and you just hold space and time for them to unfold what's happening, we're so busy, aren't we? We're so on that fast track that actually even just pausing time for a little while to focus on self is insightful enough sometimes, isn't it? Just go, oh, okay. So yeah, holding time and space for people and allowing them to just see where they're at and where is it that they want to go in, and are they on the track that they want to be on? Does something need to change? And I do think there's something about self-value in doing that, isn't there? When you offer yourself some time and space and are prepared to pay for it, because there's a cost involved with these things as well, often, if it's not just time. And to commit to something over a period of time that allows you to make those changes wherever you are and you're transitioning in life and whatever's happening for you, there's something about the value that you give yourself there, isn't there? That you're worth it. You're worth it.
You're worth it, absolutely. And there's also a psychology around paying, because when you pay, that's a form of commitment to yourself, and you take different action when you pay for a service than you do if you just have a free chat. And as you say, it's that value. I'm going to value myself and my life and my future. And we do take different action when we're...
Well, you're more accountable, aren't you? I think there's kind of almost like, and now I've done that, I've almost put that intention out into the world, so I'm going to do something about it. So there is a level of commitment with it.
There is, and it's that gets the results, isn't it? It's not just thinking about what do you want, but it's, as you say, taking the action that goes with it and aligning yourself, and also having somebody, a coach, who is specialised in helping you change your life, but in a way that holds you in your purpose. My lovely. Have you got a fire walk coming up soon? Or is this a prompt for you to have one to come up soon? Have you got an open one?
I've got on the 29th of March, I have a fire walk at Dearden Wood campsite in Edenfield in Ramsbottom.
Lovely. We'll put a link to that in the description box. Well, Gina, from my heart to yours, thank you so much. I think this definitely has been a conversation of that transitioning into being, or revealing you being the leading role in your life, and actually a brilliant message and a brilliant conversation for everybody to think about themselves as their own leading role rather than casting somebody else in that role. Thank you so much, darling.
Oh, you're so welcome. Big love.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you would like to be involved in the Meant for More movement, then please drop me a line at lisa@lisaclifford.co.uk. Whether that's you're interested in being on the podcast, taking part in any of the trainings, or would just love to know how you can help empower others, then let's have a conversation. Thank you for listening, and we'll connect again very soon.